You're listening to the Talking TUF podcast, creating tough minds for fitness, nutrition, and business. With your hosts, Rob Foster and Josh Phelps.
On today's show, we're going to be talking about working hard and knowing that it's working, covering protein intake and when's the best time to get your gains from your protein.
Straight after the session. And
comfort eating and why it's not the real issue. Okay, so...
But it makes you feel good.
It does make you feel good. And it's not, as you say, we'll get into this later, but the problem is people are like, oh yeah, but I eat because I'm sad, I eat because I'm happy, I eat because I'm eating. You know, it's just eat. Right, we're going to get into that later. But anyway, gym fails. We have to start with gym fails. And because obviously we've covered yours, probably your main one out of many, and my only one. And... This week, we're actually going to touch on, and this is okay because we're not naming names, but I'm going to talk about client fail. You know, gym fails. You know, when you're a coach, you see a lot of gym fails, and they're not always, you know, the same dropping weights or getting crushed by weights. This one is a cracker. So, I'm training. We're working out. Client comes in. We're squatting. Of course, we're squatting. That's all we ever do, right? But we're squatting, and client comes in super keen, great client, love him, absolutely huge energy. You know, he actually made me feel lazy. Like he'd come in, he'd be like, come on, let's go. I'm like, right, okay.
He wants to work during the rest. Gotta rest.
There's no rest.
Take 2 minutes.
No rest.
I don't want to stop.
He didn't understand rest. Anyway, got him squatting. This is cool. This is kind of a new thing for him. Very much a sort of outdoor athlete, you know. Gets him in, he loves it. He's like, yeah, wow, I feel so strong. And he was the sort of person that got out afterwards. And we don't really have these sort of guys in our gym. He's like jacked up, like, oh, wow, yeah, I feel great, yeah, woo. Anyway, next thing I start to talk about depth of the squat. I'm like, right, this is great. You know, we're learning stuff. We've talked about depth. We've started off with goblet squats. Anyway, we're now like, right, with the barbell, things aren't changing. We can't just start getting, you know, skimpy on the squats. He's like, oh, okay, no, I want to do it right. Well, this week was an interesting week. He then comes in, he starts squatting, and bear in mind there's other people in the room. All I heard is, I was like, oh no. There's initial thought at one point, like straight away in your mind, like, I just hope that's clothing and not a joint. Anyway, sure enough, it is. It's his crack. He is split straight down the seams of the rear in his shorts, and you are seeing nothing but netting. I mean, these shorts have got like that netting underneath.
Yeah, that's a lifesaver.
And to be honest, I didn't ask him, but I'm hoping he was wearing pants underneath. But I'm like, wow, I can see a lot of netting. He starts laughing. I'm like, well, let's get the barbell back in first before he's just like jiggling away with a barbell on his back. Does it? I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, well, listen, there's kind of a thing. We're squatting. You need a bit of give when you start to get to this depth, right? And these look kind of like your classic, I want to say like swim shorty, but quite stiff. Yeah. You know, turns up a few days later, we're back in like second day. You know, we're squatting again. We're going through the technique. We're doing it. He's wearing similar shorts, but a different color. And I've got to be honest, I didn't think much about it. Anyway, crack on, doing a few squats. Right, okay, let's go. A little bit more weight. Tension's going. I am gone. I am like, and it's not a good thing to be laughing because you're like, you know, I'm spotting and I'm laughing. I'm like, oh no, this is genius. And there was more people in the room, and I'm like, I mean, I want to tell people because it's funny. I don't want to embarrass him. He's not the guy that gets embarrassed. He's like, no. He's like, you owe me a pair of shorts. I'm like, I don't owe you the pair of shorts, man. You got to stop wearing these sorts of shorts. I cannot tell you what happens next. A week later, turns up. I bought new shorts for squatting. Josh, I was like, brilliant, because the other two weren't right. It happened again. Listen, you cannot write down. I don't know why, the immaturity of my level. It was absolutely hilarious. So he's gone out and purposely bought better squatting shorts. So by the way, I'm doing the finger quotations because he thought they were better. I sort of thought they were better. I wasn't going to start tugging his shorts, right? Because that's going to get a whole new lot of views. So I don't tug his shorts. He's like, you know, these are good for squatting. I'm sure they are. Anyway, brand new pair of spanking shorts. It's so simple, but so funny. And that is great.
Just get a bit of stretch in them. That's all it needs.
He thought he had them. He thought he had the give. And
do you not test? Did he think? Oh, I'll just test a few bodyweight squats.
I guess it's not a thing, right?
Oh, they get a bit tight.
Do you go into the shop and start just squatting out in the changing room? Like, people don't do it, and I suppose you kind of know you need a little bit of elastin if you've done it. And I thought you'd learn from your mistakes.
Well, actually, we had the same pair of the same style of Adidas.
Yeah,
I don't think you say that.
Other brands are available.
They're definitely not listening. Adidas shorts, and they were like a thick cotton type, no give.
Yeah,
and we've made the mistakes of squatting those, and they obviously didn't rip, but wow, they ride up and
then they start cutting in, don't they?
We've done it a few times. Oh no, wrong shorts, squatting today.
Yeah, it's a thing, right? I think there's the squat test in leggings for ladies. I think that's almost like a known thing, right?
I think you've seen the videos, I'm assuming you have, of legging fails.
Mate, I haven't Googled those ones, I've got to be honest. Maybe that's something you do in your pastime, but...
And I think that's the sort of like manufacturers now have to do, like the old Gymshark and stuff, they do the squat tests.
Other brands are available.
But they're pretty good brands.
Very good brand, though.
We're not sponsored by anyone.
But if you want
yet.
Plug. Anyway, but you're right. So you see these girls, unfortunately, and it's not being thing, who squat, and you can see everything.
Ripped.
And they're see-through.
And then some rip.
And that's the thing, right? It's like, don't squat in see-through leggings unless that's kind of your thing or whatever. But it's,
I didn't know.
and they're like, no. So there's like a squat test now, but the guys don't do it with the shorts. And then, so like, if guys are new to squatting, often, it's quite rare for it to happen 3 times on the bounce is ridiculous. Like, it's too good. It's too good. I was blessed. There's certain things in like that, and it sounds daft. All the things I've done, and that's one of my happiest moments.
I remember just on this. It's kind of a gym fail, but it's funny as well. And then
save it for next week. Oh God, don't use all your gym fails.
It's kind of a similar thing.
Go on,
it didn't rip, but one of the guys forgot to put his trousers on one day. He just turned up in a t-shirt and his luckily they were like lycra undershorts.
How would you forget to put
the session was full of women as well, and he was just stood nearest the door. He couldn't get any closer to the door, and as soon as the session finished, he was out. But he cracked the session.
Oh, it's amazing! Genius. I love it. See, you forget how good our job is sometimes. Not because you get to see men in tight shorts.
This is like 6 a.m. So he's literally just got out of bed and just run out. Like, oh, no.
There's no morning glory there. That is horrendous. Anyway. Let's get on to something a little bit more. I could happily talk about gym fails all day, actually. It's probably going to get the most listened. But basically, working hard, okay, squatting, do they rip? But not knowing whether it's working or not. Seems like a pretty ridiculous thing, right? But it's more common than you know. I mean, it's a big thing is, right, when you start out on something, I feel like a metric or something measurable is key to look back on and go, right, I'm doing well, I've got something to measure against, whatever it be, right?
Well, we've talked about it. We've related to finances, and if you're saving for something, you're probably going to old school way. You're going to look at the jar, see how many pound coins fill it up. Or now you'd probably look at your app, go, I'm a quarter of the way there. I'm halfway there. I'm nearly to the holiday that I wanted to save for.
Yeah.
But why don't we do it with our fitness health goals?
I mean, and obviously people do, right? So there's a lot of people who do, and I suppose actually even on the flip side of money, people don't as well with that, and that's when trouble ends up. But if you're going to get into something, I know so many people who don't do the initial measurement sort of thing, as I'd say, and that's through embarrassment, fear, things. And I think we touched on this actually not too long ago.
Self-judgment of I've let myself go too far. I know that the scales are going to tell me this, and
so I'm just not going to step on them because I know the reality. And it's like, whoa, yeah, but actually, look at the only benefit you're going to get from that. The only benefit from your scales telling you that you've gone too far the wrong way is that you're going to see a huge change, right? And it doesn't really matter. Once again, I've talked about this on another video actually that I put out recently. That there's no scale weight above your head. There's no app yet that they've designed that walks around and you go, whoa, 75 kg, and then walk around and go, ooh, and it doesn't happen. So people don't know it. You don't have to share it with anybody. We never ask people to share it with us initially, but they often want to when they do it. And this is the crazy thing, is that how happy people are when they see the difference and how motivated it can get them. Yet when people first start out, they're like, I'm doing this for a reason because they want to feel better, get better, look better, whatever it be. But they've got no physical metric on doing it. So like a couple of ways we do it, as we said before, with measurements. Yes, you can use the scales, images.
It's almost like phase one or stage one is the scale weight, right? Because it can change so many with so many different variables, and it can actually, or you can be making progress and it actually show a negative result in terms of gaining weight, but you're getting leaner. But that's obviously a huge subject we can go into. Stage two, like you've just said, next one is kind of measurements as well, body circumference. Guys might want to measure the biceps. Yeah, put an inch on my bicep. Yeah, but
it's all about putting on the inch.
Well, a lot of people just do the waist and hip to waist ratio is big. Well, it should be big. Shouldn't be the same basically. Yeah. You should have a smaller waist and hips, and that's quite a good one to track, because if your waist is getting smaller, then generally you're probably going in the right direction. It's the next one, like we say, probably going to go onto photos and taking images of people.
Well, it's just so easy for people these days,
so people can see visually the difference, because we see ourselves every day in the mirror, and actually can't really see the difference from a day-to-day basis. But 2 months down the line, you put the two photos together, you're like, wow, actually.
And that's exactly it, is that you say, when you talk about what scale weights, even these fancy ones, right? You got in body, you got all these different things where you can go into it. Yeah, there's fluctuations, there's fluctuations in it. Sorry, I said fluctuations, but there's variables in it, and there's percentages of differences, and there's different things that have factors in it. Consuming of water, all the salts, and all the different. Anyway, but when you don't give yourself any sort of thing to measure against, then it's kind of like, do you know if you're going in the right direction? So for me, I want to know that I'm progressing and if I'm doing the right thing, because so many times if you're going to start out on something, you want to know that you're not just wasting your time. If you're going to commit 2, 3, 4 hours to doing something to try and better yourself, and then you never really know if you've done any better, and especially for those people who maybe not in the obvious weight loss category as such, there are people who want to make changes who you, me, anybody else in the world may go, they don't need to change, they're fine, they're whatever, but they want to do something different, right? Their change might not be size difference, it might be a strength difference in it, but once again, if you don't measure it, then you can kind of be like, more, I don't really know, I think I'm stronger, I feel like I'm a little bit more toned, I feel like I've lost weight, I feel like whatever. But then you have the bad days. We all have bad days, and then you're like, oh, I don't think it's working. Yeah. And you jack it all in, and having that metric in that is really key. I think that when you look to start on something, if you've got that high motivation, my top tip would be is go, right, I need to have that starting point. Have a starting point, have a plan. Make sure you give yourself like stop gaps. So don't just go, right, I'm going to measure myself now and then in 8 weeks' time, because imagine measuring yourself in 8 weeks' time and then be like, wow, okay, it wasn't working, and I felt like I was dieting or training really hard or doing all the right things, and actually I was getting nowhere.
You can make along the way that actually you could rectify, but if you leave it and then get to the end result, you just
And during it as well,
you've got to really track it often, but not OCD like. Because watching the numbers move,
so that might be conflicting for people. People might be like, right, so how often should I measure, right? So I feel like it's a personal thing, and it's dependent on who you are and how you have sort of maybe
the emotional state. Put, like the buy-in you put to your emotions on scale weight.
If you're going to weigh yourself daily, right, and every time you step on scale, unless it tells you exactly what you want to see, you get emotionally caught up on it, and you start having a bad day. Oh my god, I've put on a pound, and you don't look into the bigger picture. Then you don't need to be doing that daily for sure. But in saying that, I do like people doing it if they can step away from the emotional connection. Like images, maybe weekly. I feel like weekly's a nice thing, just so you can see weekly progress.
Same time, same
measurements.
Days,
probably is a good
lighting.
Time to do that weekly as well. As you say, trying to keep all the things that could be variable the same. Say daytime lighting, all that. Consistent with that. But with the scale weight, once again, get up, go to the bathroom, step on scales, make a note of it, step away from it. And just make a note of it, and almost try and do it as mindlessly as possible. Yeah. Almost do it when you're half in that blurry eyed. I've just checked my social media on the toilet. I've stepped up. I'm stepping straight on the scales. I write it down. I'm gone. Like, just try not to have any sort of connection to it. And just and then maybe on your weekly checking of your measurements, your images, have a check over and go, right, what's my scale weight doing? Actually, it is moving in the right direction for what I'm doing, or actually it hasn't moved at all, but my measurements have changed, and visually I feel better. This is the thing I don't think people measure enough, and it's a hard one to measure. I've tried it with emojis and things like that, and scales of like 1 to 5. How you feel. Because, don't get me wrong, when you take on a challenge, it's going to be challenging. When you make a difference to your body where it's going to be potentially uncomfortable, funnily enough, it's going to get uncomfortable. You know, you're making changes to what you do on a daily basis. If you were to just carry on doing everything you were doing anyway, then you've not changed anything, then there's a good chance you're not getting results, right? So if you have had to reduce your calories potentially, or you've had to start tracking food, or you've increased your energy output, so you're walking more, or you're doing more exercise, your body's going to feel a little bit different, and it might feel a little bit more stressed. And when I talk about stress, I don't mean like in a bad way, but it's had more stress maybe put on it. You know, you've got to look after the main things, you know, hydration, sleep and all that, as we always talk about. We can't talk about it enough. But are you happy? So I don't want to go off subject too much, but I was talking about this with a good friend of mine who's a competitive athlete in terms of bodybuilding, and he was talking about people being judged, and how now he competes that it's fair game for people to judge him and make comments about the way he looks and all this sort of stuff. But if you were to make comments on people who don't train, then you can get absolutely butchered. If you would say, well, I think that actually you're a bit too big. If you say that to somebody who's competing, you go, well, I think you're too big. I think you've got too big and too muscular. You know, that's fine. That's fair game. And you kind of somewhat put yourself out there if you're going to be judged on the way you look. So I do get that. There is a difference. But on a day-to-day basis, is it fair? So where I'm going with that is that, you know, for people, it's very hard because, you know, that judgment or whatever on yourself is tough, right? You're going to be very judgmental on yourself. Other people may or may not be judgmental, but the reality is if you've got facts and you're moving in the right direction, whether you're changing size or feeling better, you know, you've got to feel happy with your process. So if doing these things make you feel happy because you're getting a result, that might inspire you to keep you happy. Whereas actually where it's quite tough at times, if you don't know you're going in the right direction, you may not ever get that happy sort of reaction from looking at your results. So it might be that you go a whole week and feel a little bit stressed and go, oh, that was tough, that was hard. But then you go, but the payout has been fantastic. Then it inspires you to go again. Whereas if you go through that and you're like, oh yeah, it was pretty tough, that's pretty hard. I don't even know if I feel any different. In fact, I don't feel any different. I feel low. And then you just drop it because of that. You know, the positives, the way you feel, you know, ideally when we go into a diet or a training plan or whatever, it'd be amazing. Of course it'd be amazing if you just felt happy and no soreness and didn't feel hungry ever or whatever else it is. But it's not the reality, right? We've been there. We've all done it. And, you know, it might be that you've done a sober for October or whatever, and it's like it's a real challenge. And actually, yeah, it might be better if you can get a good balance in time, but there's sometimes you have to put your foot on the ground. You know, you have to put it to the pedal. You have to work hard, and you know you're putting in that extra shift because you've kind of been so lax the rest of the time. You know, if you had a pile of work here, and you've been lazy for 2 months, and you've only got halfway, you know, a quarter way down that pile. Well, then what happens at the end of the term or the end of your shift or whatever, you've got to smash through and work super hard because you've got to make up for that at some point, right? So you're either consistently really good and the pile of work goes down and actually you probably feel pretty balanced and it's okay, or you're lazy, you don't do your work, and then you're going to have to smash and work hard and feel properly wrecked at the end of it, or vice versa, you work super hard, you can tail off and chill out a little bit. I mean, this is, by the way, my paper stack. If anyone can see, I'm doing like a paper stack thing in my hand. If you're watching, great. If you're not, it's probably doesn't make any sense. But
I think, yeah, we've covered in the past short, we called it like sprints really, but a 30-day sprint really for members to look at their diet, but also part of that was to daily weigh, and that's the little shaker ball.
Apologies, I've just realised I've not taken my shaker ball out of my drink, and I'm just making loads of noise. Yeah.
And although it's quite a hard thing to actually, you know, mentally, emotionally sort of get over at first, a lot of the people who did that, and then we managed to get them to look at it as the metric, saw across because we, daily measurement, first thing in the morning, written down or tracked on an app. MyFitnessPal, for instance, gives you that little scale graph. They could see, and everyone was actually different, so they could see the drop-offs across the month. And now that was sometimes down to water retention, women's time of the month will have an effect on the weight, scale weight. But a lot of people ended up dropping between, and this is purely on a weight loss sort of goal. I think the biggest was over a stone, which is crazy. Some people had it to lose, by the way. Just it wasn't like dangerously low sort of calories, but and even just up to like 5 or 6 pounds. But the people who dropped the least still looked leaner, felt better, felt more toned and tighter, I suppose, really. And the difference really in the metrics was some people dropped a bit of weight quickly and then plateaued off and didn't really change, but they thought that their mindset was sometimes around consistently having to drop weight. They're like, oh, if this continues, I'm going to be X amount of weight on the scale, when actually it's everyone's different, and it shouldn't obviously it'll be affected by loads of different things, and they shouldn't obviously think that it's going to be linear and actually drop the same amount each time. Some people didn't drop for ages, and they were really hanging on with their mindset around it, going, oh, nothing's happening, nothing. We just stick with it, you'll be fine. And then bang, it dropped off. And then some people just had a nice, they were in the anomalies, I suppose, but it was like a couple of pound a week, and it was perfect, really. We've done it, in the past. We've tracked body weight daily and averaged it out. And the way we do it is, say, you take a 7 or 14 day average, take the weight of the day one, the weight at the average weight across the time you measure, the difference between. So if every weight I took across 14 days averaged at, say, 70 kilos, just to make it easy, my starting weight was 71, on average I've dropped a kilo. The end weight might be 70.5, so I might have gone up slightly, but across that's the average. So then you know that whatever you're doing is dropping slowly, or you do it the reverse as well. I
think as you say, it's different and it's individual for everybody, but if you can look at yours, look at it in the right way, look at the metrics and realize that you've got a period of time, you've got to work towards it. And in saying that, there are times when you do the wrong things as such. You are working hard, you are training hard, you feel like you're doing everything right, and actually you may just be following some bad advice, or you're just missing a trick somewhere. So that's why, once again, in any of these situations, having a coach is really key. Someone who's been through it, who understands it, who's who's educated, and just keep you in the right direction, and make sure you're starting on the right direction. Imagine doing something constantly because you think it's the most amazing thing that you can eat whatever you want, but because you're drinking a diet drink or whatever, that you're going to lose weight, and then you're training hard, and actually you find yourself you're actually eating more, walking less, but because you're drinking this fancy tea and you're getting nowhere, then you'd be really disheartened and spend a load of money on rubbish products.
Or imagine following something like for this post on social media and that's definitely not designed for you.
Yeah.
And thinking it's going to work. Even just like the latest thing I've seen is they're still going back to that old school body typing. So if you're a endomorph, ectomorph, like you should be eating this and this, and your body will. If you're an ectomorph, which is like looking like almost super skinny, you can eat this and this. You won't gain fat if you eat carbs and stuff. When actually that's been proven to be incorrect. It's an old school way of thinking. And why would you follow such a restrictive thing of categorizing people into 3 separate types? Mad. Anyway,
when it comes to sort of talking supplements, the next thing that we're going to touch on is a good question from a great client, and somebody who's been really, really motivated. I mean, his transformation has been incredible. If you followed any of our social media stuff previously, this guy will have been all over it because he has shifted some serious way. I mean, his mindset, his health is like 100 times better. Like, the guy was in a pretty, and he won't mind saying, pretty bad place, right? I mean, he had breathing apparatus for sleeping, lost jobs, a lot of things were going, unfortunately, not great in terms of his health, his lifestyle, and all that. He is now an inspiration to so many people. It's incredible. He's not only just, keeping, or lowered his weight or done whatever there, but he's actually now so motivational and inspires us. He trains so hard, he's so strong, he's incredible. And one of his questions was around now looking more into some of the, I guess, minutiae really in comparison to what he was doing, is about protein and timing.
It's the top of the pyramid of importance that we kind of refer to, really, isn't it?
And by saying that doesn't mean it's the most important thing, just in case people look at it. So actually, so if we look at the pyramid, looking at actually the foundations and the base being the largest, what's the most important, and it's almost like, as you say, the cherry on the top is a little bit of a...
The little things that make the difference. Yeah, people have also called it like the sand that fills in. So you imagine a jar full of big rocks, some stones, then the grains of the sand fill everything else up at the end. So that's the as you call it, the minutiae.
It's the smaller thing, but that's understandable why we, so the question was really is that, do I need to be having a protein shake within 20 minutes post training? Is that a really important thing? And this is something that was really, really pushed quite heavy, especially I think it was 90s, late 90s, maybe early 2000s. And basically protein companies were pushing that, you need to get your protein in directly after, there's like a magic window almost, 20 minutes post training. Now there are studies to say that it can make a difference, that your body can synthesize it a little bit better, can digest it, and it can be utilized. But the actual, if we look at the bigger picture, the amount of difference that makes is, as we just said, is quite minuscule in comparison to some of the bigger factors when it comes to recovery and things along those lines. But it was very well done, because as you can imagine, at the end of a training session, if you've got a 20-30 minute drive home, or you've got to get changed or showered or whatever, and you're thinking you've got to get this protein in, well, funnily enough, having powder already in a shaker, adding water, shaking it up, and off you go, or buying a bottle of protein
super convenient
drink,
that's the selling
point. It really, really is. And yes,
it's how they sold this. Their whole marketing strategy is on the importance of protein post workout, and that's
and so once again,
well.
and you know what, I still, and part of me is almost still use it a habit, not all the time. I know you're pretty consistent with it as well, but that's obviously, you're doing all the other things right. Yeah. But also, once again, it's a habit. So imagine making your product a habit. It's a fantastic thing. Could you do it with other protein sources if eating them? Yeah, but once again, for the majority of people, if they've gone to the gym for an hour and a half, they've maybe not got somewhere like a fridge to put food into, and haven't got the right snacks and stuff. So the protein powder worked very well. The drinks or the shakes or whatever worked very, very well.
To try and to stomach a meal and digest it as well straight after a hard training session, like a lot of people aren't going to want to do that as well. So liquid is probably,
and actually a tasty shake as well. Like some of these are like really super tasty now. Like, I mean, they used to be pretty horrendous, but nowadays. So the bigger factor being is it important? Yes, your protein intake is important when you're starting to get to a level of which he's at, and if for those people listening, that would be somebody who is, they've got the calories in check, right? So your main thing is getting your calories in check in terms of what it is you're consuming. So your energy balance, and making sure that you're obviously getting the adequate sleep and hydration. Once again, we're talking about, especially when it comes to recovery, if you're not sleeping, and you're not hydrating, not getting good nutrients in your food, because this isn't necessarily just about the weight loss, right? He's at a stage now where he's kind of in he may even be in a sort of maintenance, but he's actually looking to strengthen, and he's talking about recovery and stuff. So doing the right things in terms of, it sounds silly, but even things like, stretching and doing those things, helping with recovery, because, people can often go from a monster workout, just sit down for 8 hours directly after, not do anything, and they'll be like, oh, why am I so, jacked up, cranked up, and I'm like, oh, my neck, and then it's like, right, having a protein shake within 20 minutes after isn't going to prevent all these things. You've got to get all the other bases right. But getting protein in is key. It does make us feel fuller for longer. Having a shake directly after may actually prevent you from then, on your 20-minute drive home, getting home and just grabbing the first snack available. It is going to drive, say, that protein in, which, say, not only is, keeps us fuller for longer, but also it is probably quite productive to him in terms of quite a lean way of getting more protein in if he is conscious of his calories. It tastes good,
Cost-effective wise, whey protein or powdered proteins is per gram of protein, I suppose, is one of the cheaper ways of getting a lean protein source in, versus expensive meats or fishes, salmon and stuff. It's to get that amount of protein in, you'd have to probably eat quite a hefty meal, and it is fairly cheap. I suppose a pound a scoop if you worked out a whole tub, maybe even less than that.
I'd say it's probably less, to be fair.
Yeah, depending on what brands you go, I suppose. You go between 25p to a pound or more per scoop of whey, and that's pretty cheap for the amount of 20 to 30 grams of protein within a shake.
And they serve their purpose, right? I say they do serve their purpose across the course of the day, but say, once again, the first thing is looking at your total protein intake across the course of the day, rather than focusing on it having to be within that 20 minutes. If you get it within 20 minutes post-training, happy days. As long as it works with the rest of your day and your calories, and it's something you enjoy, don't find yourself forcing stuff down. I've seen people like, I was really struggling to stomach my protein shake post training. I'm like, why are you doing it? If your body's telling you this doesn't, feel good, it probably isn't great for your body, and people as well who were hitting whey shakes, and they were like, oh my, my stomach's in pieces. You might have to look for a plant-based version if you're so keen to have a shake. There are other ways of doing this, that it's not the only thing. There's no magic behind it. I think that's something that we want to talk about, is making sure that it's right for you, it's comfortable, it works, it supports what you're trying to do, and look at the bigger picture there first of all. But once again, protein does help with recovery, so don't think that it's a no-go. Don't think we're boo-hooing it. And say once again, the other day I had it with almond milk because I had a few extra calories to get in, and I was struggling with food. So I had a double scoop of whey, right, with almond milk, chocolate, and it was absolutely delicious. And it sounds stupid, but I then did feel good for about another hour or so. So I wasn't rushing around, and I was at work, so as well. I didn't feel like I had to go out and get anything else, which would have broken up my day. So it worked well for me at the time, and I kind of had it, and it was easy on the go to do.
People might ask as well how much protein they should have for the day, and it's the easiest way to do it. It's basically body weight. You have to get on the scales really for this. Body weight in pounds. Usually it'd be if you take your lean body mass, but it's quite hard for people to work out, and that means your body weight minus your fat mass. But for the majority of people, the easiest way to do it is body weight in pounds, for grams. So 150 pound person, 150 grams of protein. What the difference being, we use lean body mass is because imagine a guy who's like 250, 300 pounds trying to get that much protein in, he'd be eating a ton, right? You don't necessarily need that much. You just you use lean body mass for a heavier person potentially, but a lot of people might just need to stick at that 1 gram per pound of body weight just to get started. And imagine, if you don't know, 4 calories per gram of protein. So a 150 pound person would actually have 600 calories of protein per day, and then you can make up the rest of your calories from carbs and fats, whatever you find works best. But being aware that fats are over double the amount of calories per gram than carbs. And also, say, when people are doing this, there's an argument is you don't have to have that amount of protein. No, you don't have to. And if people look at what's the minimum you can have, the trouble is people get too little. They think 2 slices of ham in a sandwich is enough protein for that meal, and that's like pittance. Really,
and once again, it's about knowing what's in your foods, right? And we've talked about this before. You don't have to always track things, but doing it a little bit gives you a bit of an idea, or at least do a bit of studying and understanding what roughly is in what, so that
1 to 2 weeks
when you're looking to try and make up,
that's it. That's all you need to do to track and get an idea, isn't it?
And you can then make better decisions, choices on I say, and be less stressed by it. So, what we're talking about stress. The other factor we were going to come on to is comfort eating, feeling stressed, feeling worried. And actually, when people are doing these things, like trying to track foods and stuff like that, they can get overwhelmed, they can become stressed, and then, things come up, right? We've all got our own things in our lives that go outside of the gym. Like, our lives aren't the gym. Even our lives aren't the gym. As much as our work's the gym, we have other things going on in our lives. Family, commitments. You got other things that go on, day-to-day things. You got people like, things will come along and they will potentially make us happy, which is great. There's other things that will make us very sad, which is, obviously not great. But often when we celebrate, when we're happy, when we're sad, when we're low on energy, whatever, we go for food, right? And then there's also things that just make us feel comfortable.
Situations, foods around that, isn't it?
And when we're talking about comfort eating, it could be lots of different things. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a particular food. It's not like you go to, I go to brownies because they make me feel warm and happy. There's different foods, and it can be anything at the time, right? But I do know that people from experience will go to food or drink as a comfort. And I want to touch base on that because, yes, it's not always ideal, right? Of course it's not ideal. I wish, it wasn't the case, but it is kind of a case for a lot of people. So how do we manage it a little bit? The first thing is not to be beating yourself up about it. Right. Ideally, if you're going to go for something that's going to make you feel hopefully, more comfort you, should I say, then ideally we're not going to eat the whole bag of whatever, but it's not going to happen. There are times where you're going to eat the whole bag of Doritos. There's going to be the time where you drink the whole bottle of wine. You eat the whole cake. You may not have one slice of something.
The trouble is the deals, the multi-packs, and they get you in, and you have to buy that to start with.
So you end up eating more.
How do you stop eating it then?
Well, the thing being is, right, let's talk about you do eat it. Let's talk about eating it, because it happens. Because it's all well and good working out how not to, but it does happen, and it's always going to happen, I think. I think there's always going to be a time we'll get weak, or we'll be challenged, or if not us, certain people will. And what do we do about it? Well, if we then react in it being a real negative and then beating ourselves up, once again, we stay in this low mood. So we've almost gone from trying to make ourselves feel more comforted or happier or whatever by eating the food, and then we beat ourselves up again about it, and we're actually going into this lower and lower and lower and lower cycle, because we kind of feel like once we've eaten the whole cake or whatever, that it's kind of game over.
Short-term high, and then followed by a long-time low, isn't it? The self-pity and why did I eat that?
You've got to knock that on the head. That's the real issue, I think. Imagine if you have that cake, enjoy it. You've used it as a tool to begin with. Let it do its job, right? Mm-hmm. Don't then beat yourself up and be like, well, actually, I've used this tool and actually I've done it to dig myself further down. Like, right, you've done it, okay? So the fact that you understand that it was wrong, because there are people who don't understand that it's wrong to eat a whole cake, and they do it day in, day out, and other things along with it. If you've acknowledged that it's not right to do that, then be proud that you are aware of your consumption and go, do you know what? Yes, that wasn't ideal. It was very nice though. I won't be doing it again today. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make some good decisions now to move on from it. Make a plan and make a start. If you then go down the point of, I can't believe doing that, I'll do it every night, and your words you speak to yourself are so powerful, right? You don't realise, if you're the person that says, I'm going to do it again tomorrow, I know I do it every night, every night I go home I do this, every day I do this, I always do this, then your body's going to start to believe that. You can make a difference, you can make a change. And if you start to go, I did that, but I'm going to do this going forwards, your body will start to listen to that more than you believe. You are actually communicating directly to your body by actually verbalizing what you're saying. Every time you say something out loud, there's a good chance your body will follow, right? So subconsciously, your body will follow. So if you're somebody, you've heard about self-affirmations, that wakes up in the morning, you've got the person who's, there, and they're saying good things, they're saying positive things. The first thing, let's do the over top thing. I'm powerful, I'm strong, and what, that might not be for you, fine. But believe you me, it does make a difference. If you're someone who's constantly, portraying yourself as feeling as a strong person and this, that, and same thing works with your food. If you're the person like, I'm always eating rubbish, I'm addicted to sugar, or I love chocolate, your body starts listening to that, and then you start craving that.
Probably go out and buy it when you haven't even got it in the house, right?
So you've got to start looking at it and going, right.
What's the key word to that? Is plan, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure.
Plan ahead. Plan things into your diet.
And
if you are someone who loves that cake, how do you make it work?
And if you're somebody who's had a curveball thrown, and once again, you've actually gone out and purposely bought the comfort food, that's not a bad thing. You've done it, right? It's gone. It's, what I'm trying to say is I don't want people to live their whole lives beating themselves up. We're going to have days like this. And once again, it's probably a day. If you did it once every 6 weeks or whatever, then it's not an issue, because you can definitely balance that out over the next however long. And actually, it might actually make you feel better, get you back on track. It might be the one thing that kicks you up the backside that goes, right, actually, I need to sort myself out. Whereas if you're the person that beats yourself up every time you do it, then where do you get out of this hole? You just keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And then funny enough, what you do when you get deeper, you start comfort eating. And then you start going, I can't get out of this. I eat crisps every night now because I feel low. And funny enough, you eat more crisps and you look for other things. And then it just, it spirals.
The danger is the habit that it creates. And it turns into a cake once every week, which, it's not a bad thing. But to do it weekly would be pretty bad, I suppose. 2,000 calorie cake adds to your weekly total. What happens if it comes in every couple of days now? And then you're like, and then it becomes a daily habit.
Yeah, it's pretty slice of cake with your coffee, but then you've had 2 coffees a day, and then you go, I've actually gone through 2 or 3 cakes. The average slice of cake, 450 odd calories, I suppose, if you go out to a coffee shop or something. And they taste amazing for a reason, but they do add up. And if your daily calorie total is 1,500, 2,000 calories,
you're having nearly a quarter or a fifth or a quarter of your daily calories from cake. It's not a bad thing to have now and again, but if that's a habit you do daily, it's tough to get in the shape you want to and feel great if you do that daily.
Well, it's the emotional thing as much as anything, isn't it? It's the emotional effect it has. And if you're feeling low and you're feeling bad, then funnily enough, if you start to, let's say, talk in a way to yourself that's not positive, your body follows, right? Your body is going to follow. The real issue, I believe, with comfort eating isn't the fact that we've eaten the cake. It's about the fact that how we react to it. It's, can we park it? Can we say, right, yeah, I've had that, I've done that, I'm moving on now, and I'm going to crack on with things. It actually served its purpose. I felt low, I went to it, that's cool. Ideally, I wouldn't go to it every time, but I've done it now. I move on, park that. I know I've got to carry on. I can't keep doing this every day. You say I can't create that bad habit, and let's move away from that and be positive.
The hard thing, I suppose, is that for people who do get into that habit, they feel worse. They can't do the exercise. They can't sleep well, and they can't get away with eating that type of food for a long time. Whereas the fitter you are, the healthier you are, you can get away with it. Your body deals with those calories a little bit better. It partitions them better. It burns them off maybe more effectively and efficiently. And we have it when we go to like barbecues, parties and think, oh, you shouldn't be eating that. Technically, if we're training hard and our body's in a better state to deal with the calories, and the person that's saying that probably isn't as active as us, they maybe shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that is quite a little
It's a different thing. It's really another thing to touch on in time is actually once you get good habits in and you get into maybe good shape, it's much easier to maintain that even with a little bit of fun.
Quote, get away with.
Say get away with things.
Those days where you do eat a whole cake or you do have your bag of buttons. And
then if you're constantly trying to chase it the whole time and go from there.
It's a stack of papers again, isn't it really? It's getting it down as low as you can and then just top it up a bit, but then you
keep knocking it down.
Yeah,
so I'm going to finish on the thought of the day. I'm pretty certain somebody of much higher intelligence has said this before, but it's come to me.
No, I'd say don't sell yourself short. I think you may have made
I don't know, but my thought today was, if you never know where you are, you will never know how far you've come. And I think that's quite powerful. And I'd like to think that, it's something that I've completely come up with myself, but there's a good chance with the amount of stuff I've read and listened to over time, somebody else has said that. But if not, Josh Phelps, 2020.
Basically doing a map check when you're navigating in the hills. And stuff.
But it is, if you never know where you are, you will never know how far you've come. So just think about it. Look at where you are. Make sure you take a moment on that. Think about where you are currently. If you've got a goal and a destination, check out where you are. And every now and again, just have a check-in. Make sure you're on track. Because when you get to your destination, you can then go, right, yeah, that's where I've come from. That's how far I've traveled. That's what I've done on my journey. Hopefully the journey's been a positive one. The outcome hopefully has been fantastic. But once again, just look at where you are now, and then you can make that difference.
Yeah,
cool.
Days.
Right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. And
watch
hopefully...
us on YouTube, obviously, if you've listened to this, then subscribe to the podcast. Watch us. We record this as well. And, we're stepping things up again. I think by this episode you'll have heard a nice little jingle in the intro.
I'm so happy about that jingle, by the way. Yes. Peace.
Bye-bye.